Okay, well, before we get started, I should probably show you guys something. My Christmas present.
From whom?
Christoph.
Did we do our intro?
Not yet.
I don't know if this was
We haven't
important.
started.
I don't know if this could be our early banter.
That's awesome. Does it say I don't believe it on the back? Because it should.
Yes!
That is
I love it.
awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, I
you
thought
should
we
definitely,
get that in the recording, and
you
then you
should-
can do whatever you want with it.
and we'll say, nice job, Christoph. That can be the end credit.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll go, nice job, Christoph. That's awesome. Ah. Did that sound authentic?
Sure.
Entirely.
Good.
I'm Patrick.
This is Will.
And I'm Chris, and we are Guys with Issues. And in this issue, we're talking about the X-Men again, the 90s. We're revisiting it because I decided that we should start the new year by looking back.
Yeah, why not?
Back on something we enjoyed.
We didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah, we didn't really
Did
enjoy
we
it.
not?
No.
I don't remember.
You don't listen to the podcast. You don't remember what we read.
You know that reading, that chart also has our ratings, if you ever...
Oh, I did. I scrolled through that, yeah.
But this is one that when we read the first three issues, we thought it had a lot of exposition, and it was kind of drab, and we at best we thought it was okay. We didn't dislike it, but we thought it was okay. Is this the one that you almost quit? Actually, was that the episode where he said he almost quit because he didn't want to keep going through it?
I don't remember.
I think it was. I think it was with all the
probably.
Magneto talk.
Yeah, or he just kept spouting the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again.
I'm pretty sure you're like, man, I really thought about stopping, and then we had that chat. But I had read a little further and told you guys that I really enjoyed what came after it better. So we always talked about going and looking back at some of the things that happened like that. So I was like, well, why don't we do that? And you guys didn't go, why are we reading this? So it was like, okay, cool. Why not?
I saw it on
Why
our
not?
chart, and that's why I'm like, oh, we're doing it again because we all must have liked it.
No, it was actually because we all didn't think it was that good. I also put Saga back on the chart later.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
I mean, and I didn't like that. So,
Right.
But I figured just because one of us, or if it's something where this is a case where I read a little further and I really wanted to know what you guys thought of this part of it, after how we felt about the first part. So this is more because I want to know what you think.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So this is our first episode.
Ding. He said the wrong word.
Dang it. Ding,
First
ding.
ding of the year.
Of the year. I knew it was going to happen quick because I call them episodes outside of the podcast anyway because I count them by episode and not by issue number.
I mean, it gets kind of thrown off because we have special editions.
Yes, I know.
And
But that's
regular
fine.
issues.
I like that the episodes are called issues in title.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what's important. We'll still try to call it issues. I'll get the first ding of the new year. But in this, before we get started, this is the first one after Christmas and New Year's. Technically, right before New Year's, because guess what? This is our new format. And this weekend is New Year's, and we're current, and this is going to be super crazy because you won't be listening to us talk in the summer when the winter's rolling
Right.
around and stuff like that. And so we hope you like the new format because if you don't, I guess we're stuck here now.
Yeah,
We lost our 3-month window.
we did.
So, how was your holidays? How was your Christmas? You were sick, Patrick.
I was sick.
Yeah.
He usually is. Pat is just Sick.
Sick, Pat. You're like the sickest.
I feel like it's the 90s in here or something.
I picture my daughter throwing up like, yeah, rock horns. Yeah, it's the sickest, Pat.
Yeah, I was not feeling well. But, I mean, other than that, it was a good Christmas.
You still did you felt sick like after the get-together stuff, though, right?
No during.
Oh, you didn't feel well during it
No.
either. Mm.
You must have been socializing too much here recently.
Yeah, that happened. Still is, really.
Yeah.
Ugh, I think it's his way of telling us to get out of his house.
See you later, guys.
Well, he's Patrick. And this was Guys with Ish.
He is calling it early.
But so you just suffered through everything.
I suffered through everything. Yeah.
You were peopled out, you were sick, but you still made an appearance for the love of your family.
Correct.
Well, I salute you.
Yes. Hats off to Pat.
Yeah. Top hats, ball caps, whatever you got lying around.
Sure.
So, did you have any fun or were you too miserable?
I was too miserable.
What a lovely holiday.
Wonderful. Can't wait to do it again next year.
Well, hopefully next year goes differently.
I hope so.
I do too. Being sick over those types of things is never fun. And you are the type that feels obligated to participate.
I do.
So that was, I'm sure it was rough. Are you feeling better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Still
gonna.
That's
think-
good.
I still have some lingers going on,
But overall,
better,
pretty
yeah.
good. Good. That's nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Wilhelm? How was your
it
holiday? was it
was
less sick, or was
less
it like sick?
It was still pretty sick, you know. But no, we had my dad's birthday
Yeah.
and then Christmas, and it was fun because I got to see my 90-year-old grandfather, right? And he started telling these stories about when he was a kid. And this is, back in like the 1930s. And one of his favorite things was when he would be able to listen to the old radio broadcasts, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he'd listen to the old Captain Marvel when it was on the radio.
Really?
And he listened to what was like The Shadow.
Yeah.
And
The Shadow is one of the inspirations for Batman.
oh yeah, well he started talking about how you could take the Ovaltine caps, like the old caps, and you could save them up, and then you could send them in to the show, and they'd send you the decoder ring.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's like, his parents either couldn't afford or they didn't buy Ovaltine, but there was a kid in his class that had them, and so the kid would save them up and give them to my grandfather.
That's cool.
And so he was able to like save those up from this kid and send them in. So he got the decoder ring. And so he listened to Captain Marvel and get the code for every week. And
Yeah,
That's
that's cool.
awesome.
and I'm like, I come by it honest.
We should. That's what we need to start. We need to start a weekly code. And
No, we don't.
no.
Pat's just like, we'll send out some decoder rings.
Well,
Email us and let us know what you think about this.
No.
what do you need to send us though? Like beer caps?
No.
Oh yeah,
Send us your Dragon's Milk
we'll
caps.
start
Those
a
are cool.
microbrewery.
No. Wow, this just escalated.
I know.
So hard. We should have like old timey radio commercials though. That's what we should do.
I
should
thought we
write
should
some.
start our own like radio show for like instead of writing a comic,
Oh,
Okay.
just do a radio
just do
show?
like a comic book radio show.
I am
Yeah.
washing my hands of this. You guys do what you want.
Wow.
Okay.
We can't even do like that. Yes, next time. Get your whites whiter and your brights brighter.
Just start doing fake ads.
That would be. Patrick says, I believe it.
I feel like this is way too much work.
I love this idea.
Right. Oh, I got a different idea. This has nothing to do with Christmas, but in our reading this week, Beast uses the term gastronomic ventures.
Sure.
Right? And I'm like, oh, that's a perfect idea. We either like do that or like one of our opening segments could just be called like gastronomics. Always talk about food.
Well, we
Even
have,
though it's like easily, you can misinterpret that as like diarrhea or something, but we're just talking about food.
that's what we have of
Sure.
the mouth.
Yeah.
This podcast is Gastronomics of the Mouth.
Oh, man. Yeah, what would the commercial for this week be? Would it be about boysenberry pie? Just like your mother's boysenberry pie.
I don't know what's happening.
I thought we were having fun.
That is exactly what's happening.
Oh, shoot.
Well, what about you, Christopher?
I had a very busy Christmas, but it was fun. We had a bunch of gatherings to go to and stuff going on, and I made homemade eggnog for the first time ever, which is about the equivalent of liquid ice cream in taste, and everybody loved it, including people who were like, nah, I don't really like eggnog. Then they would take a sip of somebody's and suddenly would have a glass of their own. I had none left. It was crazy, but yeah, gatherings went well. Made some cool cookies on cookie decorating night.
Oh, we did that for my dad's birthday. That was fun.
You made cookies?
My mom made sugar cookies.
And you decorated them?
And, well, everybody else did. I'm like, whatever. But my niece had a lot of fun. She'd be like, I'm going to decorate a cookie for Papa. And just like mounds of icing on it.
Sure.
And it'd be funny because my brother would go and grab like the piping that had like the green icing in it. And she'd just look at him and be like, no, I need that one. And take it from him.
That's funny. My son coated his whole plate in sprinkles and icing to the point where he was like, I'm going to eat my cookie. And he was brushing off all of the debris to get down to it. It was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. My mom's tablecloth was, you could definitely tell where my niece was sitting because there's just like sprinkles and icing all around in this dead spot where the plate was.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I finished The Engineer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Over my...
Way to ring in the new year with Will White on the podcast.
I know, right? But since I've been off, I got it, picked it up, took a couple days to listen to.
It's pretty good.
But it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good follow-up. We both
I
liked
liked
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can kind of see what he's building then at the end.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to know what the bigger picture is. Like, what's the looming threat? Or is that it's got to be something. There's
Got to be something. Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. I started a series that also uses a wizard in space called Galaxy Outlaws. And the wizards on the ships deal with the gravity and different things like that. It's kind of fun. Yeah. Have you done the book club book already?
Nope. That's my next book. I just finished He Who Fights with Monsters 10 today.
And you enjoyed it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've
You
enjoyed
see, I
every
picked
of
that
those.
one back up on your recommendation.
Yeah.
I still don't know how I feel about it, though.
How far are you? Which number?
I finished 9.
Holy cow. I still don't know how
I
I
don't
feel.
know.
I'm 9 books in.
You,
And these aren't short books.
They're not short books.
but I listen at work. So it's like
I don't
have-
know how I feel about this series that I literally
Okay.
have read
It's like-
3 times as much as Lord of the Rings.
He's like those Steam reviews
It's-
where they have thousands of hours in the game. They're like, yeah, I don't recommend it.
I have ample time because I can listen to books at work, and I need something to listen to. So I'm like, oh, Pat likes these. I'll just keep going. And it's like the story is fine, but there's something about the dialogue, I think, that is what kind of gets me.
I like it.
It's just like,
Like, you don't like the way the dialogue is written?
yeah, it's how to explain it. Like,
Would
like,
you?
it goes too well for him. Like, you know what I mean?
maybe a bit.
Patrick's making a thinking face.
I don't know if it goes too well for him. He runs into
Like
a lot of issues.
Yeah,
We'll
but
have him on the podcast.
I mean it.
We should have him on the podcast.
There we go.
He's a little snarky.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of the dialogue is just kind of dry, and nobody ever really like all of the people just sound the same. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Maybe it's just you. I don't know. I don't have any issues with it.
I don't know. That's a criticism that I've seen with different books, is that when the cast as far as the written cast, not the narrator.
No. Like the narrator does a good job.
No,
That
I
was-
know.
That's not what
I
I'm.
understood what you were saying.
Yeah.
But that's a criticism that I find is one I see repeated over many books is that when cast members aren't diverse enough in how they speak, it sounds like it's always the same person, but maybe with like a slightly different personality, but their vernacular is always the same.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the problems in my early draft of Spark of my original manuscript. But anyway,
I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's something
No,
I enjoy
yeah.
listening to.
well, I'll tell you right now, Galaxy Outlaws isn't perfect, but I had fun listening to the first mission. They call each story missions. So I don't
Unless,
think something has to be perfect to enjoy it.
unless they're outside of their podcast and they call them stories.
Yep, chapters out or books outside of the podcast. I literally thought that. I was like, they call them missions. Oh, that's kind of like what we do. That's funny. But anyway, did you craft a synopsis?
Oh yeah, I did.
He's like, oh yeah, that's me. Do 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 do.
Okay, so we read X-Men. I think you said that. I
Yeah,
don't even
the
remember.
night we revisited the '90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
So deep breath.
You didn't clear your throat.
Oh, is that what I do? I couldn't remember. I'm like, was it the deep breath?
Couldn't remember his own stick.
Look, we went a long time without recording.
No, we didn't. We did a back issue. What? Just
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And I
Just
forgot to
like
do it then.
normal. Are you sure? Did you
Yes,
forget?
because I couldn't
I
remember what
I
the
didn't
shtick
edit 'em
was,
yet.
I remember.
so I just didn't do it.
Oh,
So
well.
now I'm back.
Oh, just shoot.
Wolverine's unrecollected past comes back to bite him, then stab him, shoot him, drug him a lot, then string him up and almost bleed him to death by a group calling themselves the Upstarts, who believe the best way to cure amnesia is by brutally beating someone an inch from death. Logan, aka Wolverine, for anybody who didn't know, gets abducted as he and some of his fellow X-Men are on their way to enjoy an evening out after a vicious game of basketball. While in the hands of the Upstarts, Wolverine discovers that they have awakened an old enemy of his by the name of Omega Red, the Russian super soldier and mutant who has the power called Death Factor. The objective of the Upstarts is to force Wolverine to remember what happened on the night he and two of...
I like that. I like when you mess up how you go. It's like you rewind your mouth.
I do.
I like that sound.
Go on.
Wait. The objective of the Upstarts is to force Wolverine to remember what happened on the night he and two other operatives stole the C synthesizer. With it and Wolverine's healing factor, they can permanently revive Omega Red and use him to become the dominant force. Will Wolverine survive long enough to be rescued, or is this the end of the Clawed Crusader? Find out today on Guys with Issues.
Boom, boom, boom.
That was excellent.
Yeah, it was. That had a you do great on those. You really
Sometimes.
do.
Sometimes.
I enjoy them. And now that you've been trying to capture the bigger picture of the stories, I think they're even better.
Yep.
I do. Good job.
Thank you.
He's like, I will take your praise.
Yes.
So to start out, oh, sorry. So to start out, did you guys like it better than the exposition of Magneto?
Yes.
Patrick still isn't sure.
I mean, a little bit.
This is more of the X-Men that, in my opinion, this felt like the X-Men that you thought that you liked in your head.
Right.
When you first talked about the X-Men in our first
Right.
issue. Like,
Yes.
this felt more like those X-Men.
Sure.
I just like how I said yes, and I don't even remember the last time. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
You almost quit reading the last time,
Yeah.
so I hope you like.
Yeah, I did really enjoy this one, though.
Yeah, so when I originally read further on to know if it was worth us trying to read, and if it was like a bigger story arc, and when I realized that it was those first 3 and then these.
Yeah, I think originally we did plan on reading 1 through 8.
We did. And then we realized because I started reading and went, oh my gosh, the first 3 issues are so long by themselves and they don't really matter for what comes next. I was like, we're splitting it up. So I wanted us to go back because our original plan was to read it all. And I had, so that you guys didn't have to, and now you had to. So
Yeah. He's like, whatever, we're going to do it anyway.
But I thought this really showed each of the characters a little better.
It did.
Although you still don't get much of like Colossus is in the one scene where they try to stop them from being kidnapped or what.
And then just disappears.
And he's not on like the rescue team for Wolverine.
And like he doesn't show up. Well, technically I'm jumping all the way to the end, but there's like an end panel where the guy from the future is there and has
Colossus,
everybody,
isn't it?
like quote unquote, everybody is like supposed to be in that panel and he's not even in it.
Well,
But then Jubilee is.
I think that's because these comics are kind of split. You had X-Men, which is what we've been reading, and then you had Uncanny X-Men, which also told kind of a parallel side stuff. Uncanny's the original series. This was the one that ran parallel starting in the 90s. And some of those characters are off on like their own missions, I believe, like doing stuff as teams. And that's why you don't see everybody. You don't see characters like Iceman. Jean Grey wasn't in this one either. Like until the picnic, she wasn't in it.
Which was funny.
The picnic?
Yeah.
You mean the part with Jean in the picnic?
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, I'm a bit suspicious of that moment. Because it's like, we're talking about, there's this part where Jean and Scott.
Yeah.
Cyclops are sitting by this lake while Psylocke is swimming, and then she gets out of the lake and Scott's kind of oogling her, and then Jean kind of like zaps them because they're supposed to be a couple, and it's like, did Psylocke manipulate Cyclops
like
psychically to be attracted to her in that exact moment?
I don't think so. I think that's the point is that Jim Lee got to draw Psylocke in that like half page.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, yeah, see that? It's Jim Lee's art. And so they have Cyclops being like, yeah. But it was funny because Jean got
It was
mad.
funny.
It made me laugh out loud.
That's good.
Patrick's just going to say he's not going to add anything. He didn't like it. He rolled his eyes.
It's not really much to add. You guys described it perfectly well.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, so you didn't seem to care for it much.
No.
So do you want to talk about it at all? This is when we talk about the story.
No, I mean,
good. The story was fine. And the stuff with Wolverine was interesting in its own right. There was just too much going on.
Like all the time?
Like all the time. There's too many characters. There was just too much going on.
Welcome to X-Men.
And
that's how I feel about X-Men like every time I read it. Yeah. Except there's one series that I have read of X-Men that I read the whole series because it was only 24 issues that I don't think feels that way. I think it feels pared down. But that's also very 90s. Like, we talked about the 90s feel of comics during Nightfall and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, this X-Men comic is also very 90s.
It's very 90s.
It is. It is.
Like, that is one of my notes.
Mm-hmm.
This is very 90s.
It is. Like, the entire feel of the amount of dialogue and the...
it was still really wordy.
Busy the panels are.
Yeah.
Like, some of the pages...
And how confusing some of the layouts are. There was 1 or 2 pages where I kind of had to like read all the dialogue and then figure out what panels would go in what order.
It was.
Mm-hmm. I think part of that, though, is where the 90s were trying to, one, cram as much in as possible, like all the time, many times, is what I should say. Many times it seemed like 90s comics tend to just have a lot. But they also, I feel like the 90s was a time in comics, the 80s and 90s, really, is where a lot of our modern day feel for layout and paneling and different things comes from. And so I think some of that, and I could just be talking out my butt, I don't know. But it seems to me like the 80s and the 90s, as far as tone, they all tended to be a little grittier. They tried to go with a more like realistic look, like the X-Men, Jim Lee kind of stuff, for certain things. But everything was like overly detailed. And I feel like they were doing a lot of experimentation with like how much detail can you put in a page, and comics were being pumped out like crazy. But then you had these people who were like really cramming them, and you also had a lot of people messing with what layouts could be like, because traditional comics for years and years were just panels, kind of like what you saw in the newspaper. They were like 9 panels per page or so, and like pretty straightforward all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the 70s really started changing that. And really the 80s and 90s really started creating what we see today. And even now things are being like totally pushed in different ways sometimes. And I think that that's part of the benefit of looking back, is going like, wow, you can see how they were trying to create momentum and things, but then they were really messy about it sometimes, because I don't think it had really been established. Like, I think that they were just trying to create, they were kind of like pushing the comic envelope back in the 90s.
Yeah, they wanted to have a lot of image, but they also at the same time wanted the characters to be explaining everything that was going on, because there's like so many words and like everybody, somebody's always talking, and whereas like some of the panels we see in like Batman or like whatever, there won't be any text, it'll just be an image, but you'll still get kind of an idea of what's going on.
Especially modern comics.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's gone completely the opposite direction sometimes, where now there are times where it's like, wow, that took me like 10 minutes or less, 5 minutes to read, because there was like no words. So
no words.
You go back through and you look at all the artwork and paneling and stuff. But like the story is so visual sometimes that you're just like, wow, I flew through that, which is why it sucks that you pay like $4 or more for a comic nowadays, because you're like, wow, that wasn't worth $4 or $5. I totally agree with both of you though, that it felt kind of messy and jam-packed, but I still liked it. I like that it really felt like you got the characters this time, unlike the first 3 issues that were just Magneto spouting all the time. I like that you could tell that they were setting things up. I really enjoyed getting those flashbacks to Wolverine's mission with Sabretooth and Maverick.
Sure.
I thought that was cool.
It was kind of cool how they, like the first flashback, it was like towards the end of the mission, so you got like the last part first, because he had just barely been able to like go back far enough. And then later on, when he's really wounded and they're like, oh, we finally have full access, let me watch this, you get everything from the start to the point where you saw it the last time.
Yeah.
And it kind of helped coincide with what was going on in the present, because then they introduced both of his other comrades that were with him that day. They're all mutants working for different organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the basketball scene in the beginning. That was fun.
That was.
Oh, yeah.
I like when Jubilee's like, you couldn't have beat us. And he's like, yeah, what an old man know, and throws it and makes it behind his back. And she's like, what? It's just like, that's the thing, is I feel like it had those little moments throughout it. And that's why I enjoyed it a lot more than the first one. But the other thing, and at the end, I kind of like how they use that final issue, because it feels like it's separate, but at the same time, I almost think issue 8 with the picnic kind of felt like an epilogue. So you kind of had to decompress from everything. You kind of saw everybody chilling and taking it easy, and then it had Bishop introduced, and kind of the setup of Gambit being married and from the Thieves Guild, and having to go back and deal with that. And then I just like that you could see that they were setting stuff up for what comes next, while also kind of like letting there be an issue where stuff like cooled down a little bit, slowed it
Yeah,
down just a
because-
tad.
Because Wolverine was still like obsessing and like he was at the computer trying to get in and trying to figure some stuff out, and then Charles had to go in or Chuck, as he calls
As
him,
he calls him.
Chuck, comes in and tells Wolverine that you've got friends now, you're not all by yourself, and then you see Wolverine come back and feel like he's more like accepting of the group and wanting to be part of the team instead of the lone Wolverine.
Right.
I also like how, he goes, was I an assassin or a ninja or like, was I just this or that? And Xavier's like, you might have been all of those things.
Yeah.
He's like, but that doesn't really matter now. He's like, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. But yeah. And we know it takes a Rogue 4 hours to make a boysenberry pie.
I was going to point that out. I read that. I'm like, there's no way it took her 4 hours unless she made like 3 trials.
It's possible.
Maybe
that-
she's just not as good as your mom. Okay.
Oh, she's definitely not. I mean, I saw that pie. She could have done better.
That's funny. You have anything to add?
It was. I don't feel like this story was as coherent as it could have been,
Okay.
and I think I think it wasn't as focused as I seem to like my stories, which I think is why I haven't been enjoying it as much as you two seem to.
Yeah, I mean, I would never want to read this series. Like, I don't really.
Right.
I like the feel of the X-Men, but I don't really like X-Men comics very much
Yeah,
because
I-
they tend to feel like this.
Like the end of the basketball scene, those type of things in that comic were fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed reading those. But just everything overall wasn't worth it to me.
Yeah.
You didn't enjoy gastronomic ventures?
I never do.
Oh. Especially if it leads to kidnap.
Especially if it leads to kidnapping.
I feel like I would like individual stories based on a specific character and not.
No, I think they tried to almost do that. Like they usually have like a member be the focus.
Right.
Like this time
then
it
there
was
It's.
Wolverine, but then you have all these other characters that are kind of supporting that one.
I feel like it's more a too many cooks situation for me.
No, yeah, I see where you're
Because they all have to have their page time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But hey, if every comic was for every person, they'd all be boring.
Yeah, and that's why I'll have said for years and years that there is a comic for everyone, but comics aren't for everyone.
Right.
Like, it's just there might be one specific type or story or something that you personally would like.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean you will like comics, and it definitely doesn't mean that you will like all comics.
Right.
But yeah, I am totally on board with what you're saying, man. I also think that it, to one of my favorite parts, it isn't what I would consider my favorite part, but it was a scene that was pared down. It was a simple page. And it was when Maverick's like, yeah, it'll take 2 seconds. And then you get a single panel of blood splatter. And it says, actually, it took about 30. And
Yes,
then it went
I
exactly
remember
how
that.
you expected. And like that page was so simple. And that had so much flair and felt so cool. And it was the one that didn't even show the fight, where so many other pages were like, had to fill in with everybody getting their punches in or their
Right.
throws and Rogue breaking through a wall and like all this stuff, which can be cool. But at the same time, it can be a lot on a page if you don't have it feeling clean. But yeah, these are just our opinions. If you love 90s X-Men and you think we are totally wrong,
Tell us why.
yeah,
At Guys with Issues.
at Longbox.
Longbox, yeah.
Issues.com. So anyway, okay. So did you have a favorite scene?
I think my favorite scene was when Gambit's wife showed up. Just because everybody was floored that he had a
Dude,
wife. It was
all of them.
all of them. Like, I'm sorry, what? It was pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. And at Rogue's face, the
Right.
way she's like, "You had better explain yourself right now."
Pretty much. That was good.
Yeah, I did like that. That was a good one.
I don't know if I had one really. I'm thinking.
Should we get the final Jeopardy question? Music going?
Why don't you go, Chris? I'll think about it. See if I can remember what mine would be.
I'm gonna cheat a little and not pick a specific scene. I liked the flashbacks to Logan's mission that they were trying to find, and I like how you saw answers to some things in that, or connections with people, who they were in the current issue and their ties to him compared to who he knew them as, like in that time in his life. I like the flashback scenes. I also like the scene where Wolverine ambushes them from inside the grave when he busts out of the casket at the end. I thought that was kind of cool when he jumps the startups or whatever.
Right.
They go to that graveyard and he's like, they're like,
The
well,
startups.
and then he's like,
They're all from Silicon Valley.
and then
They're like, how'd you beat us? And he was like, I didn't have to come here in the dark.
but I was just like, oh, that's funny. He was like, just imagine him. He's like getting in a casket, like getting all ready
Right. Like, how
to
did-
ambush him at night in a graveyard.
I saw that. I'm like, who put the dirt back on top of him?
Dude, he's got the whole team, okay? I'm sure he could
yeah.
recruit one guy.
seemed like he walked
Colossus, definitely Colossus.
But what would that conversation be like? He walks up to me like, okay, buddy, I need your help. He's like, all right, Wolverine, what do you need? I need you to help me dig up a grave that a person I buried 30 years ago. And then I'm going to get into the casket with his body. And then I need you to put the dirt back on top of me so that these bad guys, I'm just assuming, are going to come over here and dig this up. Because I think they figured it out. Hopefully, that they could dig this up just so I can pounce out and get them.
That is a master plan. That's how you do.
And it's like,
I mean, that's not how I read how it happened, but I mean, that's
Me either, but that's. But I like his
I
interpretation.
do. It's interesting.
I'm just like, that. There could have been better plans there, guy.
I like that. I like those moments. Nice little cherry on top for the rest of the story.
Right.
You got nothing?
I don't really have anything.
The
no.
basketball scene.
Yeah, come on, bub.
I think the basketball scene was pretty good.
Pies to the face. You're always a fan of pies to the face.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pies to the face.
I'll have to remember that for your birthday.
Oh, we're gonna do like the Mexican style where I'm like, oh, it's a cake, bam.
No, you're just going to walk in somewhere and I'm just going to hit you in the face with pie.
I wasn't sure if he was
Done.
going to hit you or hit me for your gift. You like pies on the
He didn't
face?
specify which face, so I'm assuming it's his.
I'll take it
To the face.
to the face.
Boysenberry?
Yeah, sure. I don't even know if I've ever had a boysenberry.
I think I did once.
I've had boysenberry pie.
I believe I've had one.
But then again, it's pie, so.
Okay, well, so you didn't have one, technically.
No, I mean, technically, no. There's not like one scene that really ever stood out when I was reading. Like, yeah, the flashbacks were cool. It all kind of just, for me, it all kind of flowed together.
Yeah.
But there was not like one moment that was like, oh, that was cool.
I like the opening scene where they get Omega Red.
Oh, well, everybody has their hands.
Well, it just felt very like a movie where, the movie rolls and the screen goes, you'd see like the Arctic and you see them getting this guy and they activate him and then they're like, this is the guy you want. And he looks at him and he's like, Logan. And then it would like zoom in on the picture and then it would be like him on the basketball court or something.
Right.
Like it felt like a movie paneling. I like
Very
that.
cinematic.
It was very cinematic. It was a cool setup to just establish immediately the main antagonist, as far as physical antagonist, has ties to the character that the story's going to be about.
Right.
I liked that. I thought I enjoyed that. But I had to bring up that scene because I forgot to mention it earlier.
There you go.
So anyway, favorite character?
Probably Logan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense about him. He got the most screen time.
And he's, Canadian.
Page time.
So why not?
And he's Canadian. Throw him a bone.
Yeah, Logan.
Cool.
Then again, I've always liked Wolverine.
I think he was in our.
He did. He did talk about him.
Top 3
in the original list of top 3. Wolverine was mentioned.
Yes.
Makes sense. We got a story that was more about him. I bet you'd probably enjoy his solo comics.
I'm sure I would.
That's what it is. That's really what you would enjoy out of X-Men is Wolverine's solo series.
Probably.
Yep. I could see that. Because that goes with what you said a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
I do know it is kind of nice how they tell you when you're reading what the other comics are when they have a reference.
Right.
Oh,
So like they'll talk about something like, oh, this is Uncanny X-Men, like number 82 or whatever, or it'll be like, oh, for more, see Wolverine number blah blah blah.
Right. Or this was in
Yeah,
the last issue.
previous issue.
That
That is unique. I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's really common for comics, especially back then. You see it now sometimes, but I feel like nowadays they don't try to interconnect those as much. Sometimes it is weird. I would almost prefer if comics still did that regularly, though, because they're like, you can be reading a Batman comic and they might be like, yeah, and we have to remember so and so because so that their life wasn't a waste. And I wouldn't mind a little box saying reference issue, Detective Comics,
Right.
whatever. I don't dislike that, and I understand it. You have to have somebody who's doing that to make sure that it's tied together, and maybe they don't pay the editor to do that nowadays. Maybe that's not what they do.
Probably not.
But a lot of times it'd be like the editor's name in the little box, like check this out.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was super common, especially back in like the 90s, because they had so many things that would like cross over because they wanted you to have to buy all of those series. They wanted to make sure that you were buying everything. So,
But then if it was something you enjoyed and you got kind of frustrated because you couldn't figure out,
oh yeah,
what does this mean? Where do I find this more information? You just have to read the comics. The comics tell you where to go for more comics.
yep, yeah. No, I don't
Kinda
think
like
I don't think it's a
closed
bad
system. But my favorite character would have to be probably the Beast.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, he had a lot of
He's a good
fun.
one.
A lot of fun dialogue. I like when he transformed into he had like a disguise thing,
Right.
and he turned into like a regular dude.
oh yeah, yeah.
And someone was like, "I kind of prefer you the other way, actually."
Jubilee. Oh, I guess that's an improvement. I would I would almost pick Jubilee as my favorite character because she always either looks confused, exasperated, or like total like she almost always looks out of her element somehow.
She reminds me of the girl from Deadpool. Did you ever watch Deadpool?
Super Negasonic Teenage
Yeah.
Warhead or whatever her name was.
I think that was it. Yeah.
I'm just like, why does she always behave like her? Maybe they based that character in Deadpool off of Jubilee.
Well, I mean, they're probably similar in age from what that is. And I mean, they both have that attitude kind of. I mean, she's like a 90s teenager. But I would say I think Logan was the highlight, probably. But I'll say my favorite was Maverick. I liked his scenes. I liked how he operated and what he was doing. And I do like when he holds the gun up to Wolverine's face and he's like, yeah, I know this adamantium can stop this bullet, but your eye isn't made of
Right.
it.
Yeah, that was good.
But it was just fun to see him try to work with him while still trying to be clandestine and like having that whole idea. I thought it was an interesting character to have in a little side
And to
story.
see him be like, of the three of them, he's the only one that actually remembers everything. Because Sabretooth, he doesn't remember anything either. Like Wolverine and him both have amnesia. And
But I
he's
think
just
that's
like, really?
from Weapon X.
Yeah.
Like
But-
from what they did to Wolverine and Sabretooth, maybe. If I remember
Probably.
correctly.
I think they said that
kind
in
of.
the.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. What about least favorite scene? You didn't really like it. Did you have a least favorite part?
Anytime somebody said, well, I guess your mutant powers don't last that long or whatever. Just so dumb. Said that about Logan's healing factor, and they said that about somebody else. I don't remember what it was.
I do like that line when they say that he's not going to be a problem, and he's like healing factor, however many pounds. Like he like to, and then he wakes up and he's like, not a problem.
Right.
That was moderately fun. They had a lot of like single panel moments I liked overall, but so you didn't like every time one of the like rich people who were doing the experiments would be like, good thing powers suck.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about you, Wilhelm?
So I was actually going to say the graveyard scene for the previously stated rant that I went on.
That's amazing.
And I was
love
like,
it.
I just call it baloney. I'm like, how did he get in there?
He's been in there for 30 years.
Yeah, what you don't realize is he time traveled, climbed in the box, and he's like, my healing factor will keep me alive.
But then he was in there with a dead body for 30 years.
That's how he survived.
This is getting worse and worse.
That's hilarious. My least favorite scene is when they jump to like the other places, like the Mojo planet. and
Oh,
all
that was going to be my
stuff.
other one. Yeah.
I know they're trying to build like an overarching, like, look at these things that are going on and these other people involved that'll eventually play in.
I completely forgot about those.
I did too. When I was reading it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make this my least favorite. And then time passed and I immediately forgot about it. And he brought it up. I'm like, oh, nope, that was it.
Yeah, because
Because it made no sense.
it shouldn't be in there at all. I get that
It was
they're
I would say it was the one part that would be kind of jarring because they'd go to that and it's like, okay, how's this going to play
and sometimes it was for pages.
yeah, it would, and like none of it made sense
Pages.
because they didn't
Pages.
give it enough runtime to make it its own thing. And now whenever they pick that story up, they're basically just going to have to go back and explain what happened.
And it may have already been going on like in one of the other series or something.
But then why would they put it in?
But
there?
I don't, because they're tying them together. That's what they're doing. I just thought, you know what? If you're going to do something like that, stick it in at the end. I don't care. Don't put it in the middle of like your story.
Right.
Like 2/3 in, you have 5-6 pages of something that's totally irrelevant. I did not enjoy that. That bugged me. And Mojo's always been stupid. I don't like that guy. But anyway. Least favorite character?
Oh, I had it.
Mojo.
You know, I'm actually going to say Gambit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Don't like his attitude?
No.
You don't like his accent.
His accent was fine.
Because he doesn't respect boundaries.
Yes.
I knew I knew you were going to say something about that.
Yeah.
I expected you to. Mm-hmm. I figured. Pat, I
I
was
really
reading
like his power.
that he can charge
Energize
anything with
objects.
extra kinetic energy.
Right. That's cool.
I expected you to be like, Gambit was kind of scumbag.
He was.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I think my favorite scene was when his wife showed up.
Nah.
Rogue still likes him, so
Oh. It's on
Well,
her.
I mean, if she didn't, she'd just be like, okay, you want a kiss? Here we go. See you later, buddy.
I like that Rogue's like, people can't touch me. But she wears like the skimpiest outfit of like that
course.
whole picnic.
Yeah.
Like, don't touch me. If I fall, somebody dies because they're going to try to catch me. I trip, dead.
So 90s.
What about you?
I would have to say, I don't remember what their names are, but basically like the Nazi twins or the Nazi couple.
Okay.
like the bioelectric
Oh,
people. You know who I'm talking about? Like
the
they're holding
blonde
hands.
people.
Yeah, and they're like,
And they held
we.
their hands. And the ones that, like, were part of the bankrolling of the Omega Red stuff.
Yeah. Even though I thought the blue-haired guy was the one that financed everything, or maybe I misread what bubble that was going to.
Are you talking about Psylocke's, like, mentor? Not mentor.
The guy who basically like took over her mind
Yeah.
somehow.
With a keyword, trigger phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought like that bubble was going to him. And so I was kind of confused as what purpose do they actually serve? Because they didn't really do anything.
I think they were part of, like, that board.
They
I
showed
thought
up.
they were, like, part of the organization.
Yeah. I don't know.
They were my least favorite, too.
What about you?
Same.
So, oh, yeah, you said that. Same?
Yep.
Cool.
I didn't like them either. I was like, whatever. They weren't that cool. And they seemed kind of pointless, and they were just bored.
Yeah, they had one panel where they're like, oh, we're going to hold hands and shock people. I'm like, we could do that with like some wool socks and a rug. Like,
I don't even remember this scene.
You don't?
No.
Yeah, where they held hands as brother and sister and were like, we've got the power, and held their hands up.
No.
And it was like a
I mean, how?
solar flash electric thing. It looked like a giant flashbang.
No, there was way too much going on, I guess.
Yep, that happened.
Okay.
Okay.
How gypped were they that they had to have two people to make their abilities work?
Yeah, that's
It's
almost-
what it's that's the kind of like the vibe it gave is like they had to be able to hold each other's hands, and so if something happened to one of them, they're basically done.
Well, doesn't Psylocke, like, psychic knife her brain later? Wasn't that her?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
That looked rough.
Hmm.
Okay.
There you go. We totally forgot to talk about emails.
We did.
So we just want to give a shout out to Heather. Sorry, Christoph. You've sent
Ooh,
us.
psych! You thought it was going to be about you, Heather, but it's not.
No, I'm saying sorry to Christoph.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like Heather. Oh no, sorry, Christoph.
No, Heather has sent one email and Christoph has sent 5 or 4 emails. But we're going to talk about Heather's because she shared her Christmas tradition. She makes a Christmas breakfast casserole.
There you go, casserole.
And it's got bologna and green beans and eggs and cheese, and it's from a 1980s cookbook. And she said it's super weird, but they all love it. And it was a tradition that Patrick's mother had done.
It was.
And so she revived it for her family. And it turns out she doesn't want to keep it going sometimes, but everybody insists that is part of their Christmas.
Yep.
And we also wanted to just say, we're glad to hear that you kept pushing through Cradle and that you
Yes.
are enjoying it, except for Uncrowned, which my wife also didn't enjoy very much. So you guys are kind of on the same page with that. I'm not surprised with your disapproval of all of the fight scenes in the books. That's your least favorite stuff. And that's about a tournament where people fight. So, yeah, not surprised. My wife doesn't like tournaments, so she also did not enjoy Uncrowned very much. But you're really getting into the good stuff now, where all of the threads begin to tie together and the big picture starts closing in. And that's where all of the things you've waded through that you didn't enjoy, you get to see all of the parts that you did enjoy play a bigger impact into the finale. So you're almost there. You're getting close. We're glad you stuck with it and you found that you did enjoy it more than you thought you might.
Yep.
Because we like it.
Obviously.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for sharing your Christmas tradition. And I kind of want to try your casserole now. I bet I could look up something I could just type those ingredients.
I'm sure I could get the recipe
I know.
if you want the specific
The specifics. But yeah, Christoph had a lot of stuff. He also says a good sandwich shop is Panini Panini.
Right.
Nice.
Which we might be eating at soon.
At Panini Panini?
Yeah.
Oh, when are you doing that?
No, I said we might. It's in the Valpo area.
Oh, so you're saying when we go to play a board game.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know that a sandwich shop was included in that.
Well, that's why I said might.
It's in the area. It's a possibility.
Yes.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of things in that area. It's full of possibilities.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, this has gone on long enough.
It really has.
Yep.
I'm
So-
Patrick.
We didn't rate it.
We're not gonna.
What?
No, we're done rating. We're not rating anymore. Nobody cares about our ratings.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
So out of claws.
Is that what you want?
I'm asking.
Because it's the holidays and Santa Claus.
And Wolverine's claws.
Sure, we can do claws. How many claws would you give it?
3.
3?
That's funny. I'll probably give it a 3 too.
Same.
Yeah.
There we go. 3 claws. Solid
claws.
3 all around. There it's rated.
Which I like because, he's got, 3 claws on each hand.
Right.
Yep. Okay, so what were you saying?
I'm Patrick.
This is Will.
And I'm Chris, and we are Guys with Issues. You can catch the new issue of Guys with Issues each week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
You can catch the new issue of Guys with Issues each week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
Send us emails to longbox@guyswithissues.com and tell us your thoughts, or send us suggestions on what we should read next. We would love to hear from our listener.
We done? Is this? We covered it well.
I think so.
I didn't know if anybody. What I mean is,
All right. Well, I guess I'm Patrick. No.
no, we're not that done. What I meant was, did either of you have anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Well, we're done.
Okay, we're taking the headphones off. Yeah. Good episode. Because that's not an issue. We didn't even talk about
No.
anything.